Good morning, everyone. Ginette Biro here. I guess I should say good afternoon or good evening as well, depending on when you're listening to the podcast. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining. I sure appreciate all of you joining in and listening in. And I do want to take this moment to say, if you're enjoying this content, first of all, thank you so much. I'm really glad. Please do share and subscribe and rate or review the podcast. All of those things help get the podcast out to the people that really need to hear it. So if you are able to take that little bit of time to do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let's get on with what we're talking about today. Today was really inspired by my guides. I was actually going to talk about something else, and as always, I will follow the lead and the inspirations that come from them. And they said, hey, can we actually divert today's energy to something different? So today what we're going to talk about is the blueprint within you. We're going to talk about how we bring that forward through embodiment, grounding, but really allowing ourselves the freedom to step into joy, pleasure, and all of that we really are the gateway to that. That part is on us, regardless of circumstances. So we're going to dive into this today. So I really hope you are in a place where you can sit. Maybe you're with your coffee. Maybe you're going for a run and this is helping you move through the energy of running to kind of keep your mind busy. Whatever it is, let's dive in, because this message was, my guides are already talking as always. They're saying this is really one of the most simplest ways to conceptualize the magnitude of our power this year. That is word for word from them. So let's dive in. So first of all, I have spoken so often about our soul blueprint. It was something that was shown to me in my NDE experience. So for those of you that are new to my podcast, haven't checked out much of my stuff yet, I encourage you to check out my book, Avalon to Aurora. And it's all about my near-death experience in August 2019. And I had already been a medium for a long time before that, so I already had a really good understanding of how things worked. But it was when I went to the other side, was shown my life blueprint, and then given the opportunity to change a few things out before I decided that, yes, in fact, I want to come back. That story really kind of gives the whole picture of it. And it is this blueprint that I'm talking about, this soul blueprint. I used to describe it as a tapestry. We all have a soul tapestry, and the weaving of our tapestry is the balance between the destiny points we create and the free will action we take weaves the tapestry. And that's still a beautiful way to describe it. But the way that I experienced it in my NDE, of it literally being a blueprint rolled out in front of me, in which from the point that I was standing at that table with my guides, looking at what was left of my blueprint for this lifetime and whether I wanted to stay on the other side or come back to Earth to finish it out, they gave me the opportunity to change some of those juncture points, some of the things that I would want carrying forward, and remove the things that I didn't want. And again, one of the things I removed was chronic illness. I did not want to deal with chronic illness anymore. And so I got to pull out what looked like a fuse, put it away, and pick a different one to put back in. Now that all gave me the understanding of how much we do co-create our blueprints for this lifetime. And my guides really wanted to emphasize that, remember, your soul blueprint is within you. It is within your soul energy. The direction of where you need to go, where you should go, what are you meant to do, what is your purpose, why are you here? All of that is in your soul blueprint. All of that is there for you to tap into at any time. We first of all have to believe that we can. And so what are some of the ways that we can tap into the blueprint? Well, a lot of that can be done intuitively. You could try something like automatic writing or inspired writing, where you sit down, you set the intent with your pen and paper, maybe at your computer, and you say to your guides, I would like to know more about my soul blueprint. Can we receive insights? Can I interpret insights? What do you have to share? What is my soul journey? And then you just start writing the answers, and you see what the answers are. And for some of you, that may be a really beautiful method of gaining those insights through your own writing. And you may feel sometimes like you're making it up, but truly there are pieces in there, and maybe the whole thing, that are absolute truths. And sometimes when we give ourselves that outlet, we can actually be that conduit to that information, because again, you are your soul frequency. So really, there's no one better than you. However, for many of us, it's the human mind, the human ego, the busyness of 3D life that gets in the way, and we can't either focus. We are trying to jump in and create what we wish it would be, which could technically be similar to what it is. But the mind can get in the way. So sometimes when we feel like we just cannot get into it ourselves, there's other methods to get into that. And that is perhaps sitting with a medium, but also perhaps going into your Akashic records. Now, going into the Akashic records, for those that aren't familiar, the Akashic records are the records of all things in the universe. And some people describe the Akashic records as like this giant library full of books of the universe, books of creation. And it's not necessarily written in books, but they are energetic frequencies. And your soul frequency, your soul blueprint is in that, as are all the blueprints of all of your incarnations that you've ever had. So connecting with somebody that can read the Akashic records is a really beautiful way to gain more insights of your soul blueprint. Your why, your purpose behind why you're here, different insights and understanding. So that's definitely one way you can explore it. You could also explore it in spiritual hypnosis or regressions into the before lifetime. So that spirit time, the time when you're still in spirit and you're planning your life here, you can actually ask the question to go to exactly that place. You can go into your regression and tell the practitioner, I would like to go to that before soul time at that council table where we're literally planning my blueprint. Bring me there. And you can go there and discover it and ask questions. You could also, like I said, do this in mediumship readings. There's lots of different ways. So tuning in and exploring your soul blueprint is going to be such a beautiful way to gain understandings of what you're doing here, why you're here, why these repeated patterns are happening to you, why maybe some things are coming so easy for you and not for another, or vice versa. Maybe you're struggling and you're seeing people around you succeeding and you're wondering what gives. There are answers in your soul, and literal answers that you can go in and find because they are in your blueprint, and you have access to your blueprint. It's yours. You absolutely have access. So I would really encourage you all to check out those different ways that you can dive into it, because again, knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have of self, the more it can explain certain things. And when we can understand, like I said, certain patterns or things in our lives, we then can sometimes take the emotion out of it and move forward. So if there's a repeated pattern and you understand it from a soul level, sometimes that understanding can be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Perfect. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to change it and move on because I'm tired of that, or I'm done with that. Knowledge is power. So the knowledge resides within you, in your blueprint, and you can access that. Now, another thing in connection to that blueprint, how things that help bring that blueprint knowledge to the surface as well in your everyday life, is how grounded you are. Now, this is a really neat misconception, and I absolutely thought this as well. I thought I needed to be up in the clouds, expanded, in the high frequencies all the time. Don't bring me down to earth. I don't need to be there. Let me stay up here. This is my passion, my purpose. This is where I need to be. What I didn't realize is that because I'm embodied as a human, just as you, because you're embodied as a human, you also need a very strong tether to the earth. The earth has this beautiful, harmonious, powerful, change-making consciousness, 5D consciousness already. She's already there. She's waiting for humans to catch up. When we tether into that energy also, knowing that those same elements of earth run through and make up our bodies, we then can ground into this really powerful hub type frequency that can ground out the amount we're bringing from the higher realms down. So what that means is when you're grounded and tethered into the earth, you actually have the ability to bring in more information and carry a higher frequency because you have a grounding point. If you don't have that grounding point, you can essentially short circuit. And what happens with the human body often when we short circuit is we fall into illness. We fall into chronic fatigue, adrenal issues. I have been there completely. It wasn't until I really started to learn the value of grounding and how powerful of a player Mother Earth is that a lot of my energy started to balance out. And so the next thing to really allow you to open up more to your soul blueprint really would be grounding. Grounding practices, being embodied in who you are. Part of that grounding is not only just connecting with Mother Earth, walking around bare feet, visualizing, that's the word, visualizing tree roots coming through your feet into the earth that ground you into that goodness, but also setting boundaries. Because just as the earth in some ways will set a boundary, she'll restore the energetic frequency sometimes by bringing in something to really shake things up. We also have the ability to set those boundaries or reestablish balance by our yeses and nos. And that is so connected to our embodiment, and it's so important. So embodiment is a big piece of you opening up a bigger frequency. The more that you are true to self, the more consciousness that can essentially expand and come down into your human consciousness here. It's quite a powerful thing. Now, the next thing that they wanted to say too, in terms of opening up to that blueprint, grounding in that energy, it naturally leads you to realizing and recognizing how worthy you are of being present here at this time. There are so many of us that live with shame, guilt, regret, insecurity, judgment, all of this because of the constructs of 3D. Now, I'm not even being negative on all things 3D because there's some amazing things about third dimensional living, very amazing, but equally very heavy, traumatizing things about 3D as well. And a lot of those are based in social conditioning, the way we're raised. Things that we didn't even question as being maybe not right for us, just simply were the way they were because they were. What we can really realize is that we are worthy enough and we are allowed and we have a right, a sovereign right to change and grow. And in that changing and growing, we can be forgiving of self to anything that was shameful, hurtful, things that you regret, things that require forgiveness, things that require a deeper insight into it. Those all help to make us who we are, but we have to come to a point when we're willing to allow ourselves to enjoy the sweetness of life. Now, that can be in overcoming major traumas, but that can also be in the case that many of us are in right now, which is having gone through the pandemic. Again, 2020 to 2024 are massive years of change not only in the collective, but in self. So we went through this massive change with the pandemic hitting, all of this stuff. We got used to responding to trauma, responding to fear, responding to the call from the universe for us to dig into our stuff. Dig in, figure out who you are, heal your traumas, heal your triggers, explore your triggers, embody who you are, all of this work. There's been a ton of work going on so far. And that's a really good thing. But the thing we have to remember then is to balance out that work with joy. Balance out that work with play. Balance out all of that hard work with the ability to also say, you know what, I think I have completed that. I think I've moved on. I don't need to resonate with this old story of who I am anymore. I am ready and I am worthy of moving forward. I'm worthy of being who I am today, and that everything before made me who I am today, and I can find peace with that, right? There's a lot of that change in perspective now that Spirit is really calling forward. And in many of the mediumship readings I've done, the channelings, and even the daily card readings, the message has been very consistent for the last while of play, of joy, of happiness, of laughter, of really inviting us into that kind of energy so that we can shift and transmute and change out of that hard-working energy into the balanced polarity. And it doesn't mean that we just drop everything and we're all done, everything is perfect, but it means we're willing to balance out work with play, work with rest, healing with time to integrate. Because anything that we heal or that we move through, we also need time to integrate that. But we have to give ourselves the time. We have to feel worthy for the time to do that. And I know that oftentimes with spiritual retreats, in spiritual retreats, and I have been on many and I have hosted many, there is such an expansive experience. People expand and they see a new perspective and all of that, and they come back home, and no matter what things are put in place for that integration phase, the integration phase always hits harder because you're taking the new frequency of what you've opened up to, putting it back in the old frequency template that was there before you left, and it doesn't jive. And what it really needs is just time to create the new frequency, the new reality. But oftentimes we don't give ourselves the time. And then when we start to notice the disharmony, we start to get on ourselves and think that we're not doing enough. How did we lose all the energy we had? How, all this negative self-talk. But really what we need to do is remember that we are the entirety of our experience, and we simply need time to integrate and recalibrate, and that is okay. So again, it's this willingness to look at self through the lens of love. We often look at self through such a judgmental lens. We will often, allow somebody else to bend the moral rules, the societal rules, the perceived rules of what is a rule. I'll even put it that way. We're more forgiving to somebody else doing that, but then to ourselves, we're so hard on ourselves, which is really part of the root of why we're so often not willing to feel worthy for joy. To prioritize play, to prioritize rest, to prioritize fun time. I was listening to this beautiful podcast the other week, and it was about burnout. And in there, the doctor who was talking about how he actually prescribed to his patient that his patient must see friends twice a week. That was part of the prescription, because this person was talking about feeling very depressed and detached and all of this, felt they needed to go on medication. And my comment here is not saying to medicate or not medicate. That's completely separate from my point. My point is, when this person added getting back out with friends and bringing in play, 2 months later, they felt so different. So different, because they prioritized, they wrote it in their daytimer that they had specific times in the week to play. And that was it. And stepping back into that energy was so life-giving. When we play, when we have fun, when we are sensual, when we are connecting deeply in a non-work way, we are creating life force energy. We are essentially opening up to that life force energy. And so we really need to be worthy of that. And then that brings me into that next level piece that I wanted to talk about as well. With this worthiness of play, happiness, love, but it is also rapture. It is sensuality. Many people are embracing now, I think, a much more sensual nature of self. And that can be in, say, the way that you're allowing yourself to dress, a way that you show yourself to the world, even the way that you pay attention to textures that feel better on your body. It is a sensual thing, and I'm not talking sexual. I'm talking about recognizing the pleasure, and again, not a sexual pleasure, simply the pleasure of touch. We can even give ourselves that gift by being choosy of the fabrics or the textures that we put onto our body. Something like that, even having a willingness to pay attention to that, feeds back into our life force energy, feeds back into our joy energy, because we're paying attention to those connections. We can then absolutely take that further and, consider where do we have hang-ups, even in a sexual nature, in which, we won't allow ourselves to be touched a certain way, or have a relationship, or go deeper, or make that relationship deeply bonded and bring in the eye gazing and bring in the breath sharing and all of that kind of stuff. We don't give ourselves a willingness. We don't feel maybe we're worthy. Maybe we see that on a movie and we think, oh, if only I was handsome enough or pretty enough or fit enough or something, then I would be able to share in that kind of intimacy with my partner. But the thing is written in your soul blueprint that we were talking about at the very beginning is absolutely that birthright. Your birthright to joy, your birthright to laughter, your birthright to pleasure, in all of the ways that those things are absolute balancers and amplifiers to your journey of opening up, of discovering and understanding your purpose and your why. But we have to be willing to allow it space to be. So again, knowing that your blueprint is within you, that you can access it through various means, grounding your energy into Mother Earth is so beneficial for really creating this big anchor point for more. And then allowing yourself the freedom to explore your joy, laughter, pleasure, happiness, all of that. Explore it to balance out the amazing amount of hard work, healing, growth, and transformation that you have been doing in the last several years. So I will leave that with you all for today. I hope that helps inspire you to look upon your own being with awe and wonder, and give yourself this beautiful energetic hug, and give yourself the credit you so deserve of, wow, look how far you've come. Look who you've transformed into. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you. Let's go and keep making the rest of this life journey the most that we can make from it. I hope you feel that today. So thank you, as always, everyone, for joining me on the show. I sure appreciate each and every one of you. Like I said, please do subscribe, share, rate and review the podcast. And I so look forward to connecting with all of you next week. As well, do check out avalonspirit.com for more offerings. We do have Akashic record readings on there, mediumship, as well as spiritual hypnosis. So lots of avenues for you to explore your soul blueprint. So thanks a lot, everyone, and I will see you all next week.